We are live, and good morning to everybody watching us on this Wednesday morning. This is July the 23rd, and this is the Japan Expert Insights podcast with Tim Sullivan and our very, very special and beloved guest today, Binati Sheth. Welcome, Binati.
Just to be clear, I'm Tim, and that's
Yes.
Binati next to me. So,
Yes.
in case there's any
Don't call
confusion.
me Tim. I'm not Tim. Tim is right there.
Tim is this way.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Mara.
Oh, let me get back to my thoughts. All right, and then today we are going to talk about things which we believe are very obvious because Tim and I have been here for decades. Well, quite recently we talked that we have an accumulated experience in Japan of 70 years or over 70 years. But, well, with Tim's part of it, it is the bigger part of it, of course.
Because I'm old. Because I'm an old man. But okay, let's go on. Yes, but that's true.
Tim, because you're a wise man, okay? Let's say so.
Age
Some
is
people call
not
me a
a
wise
bug.
guy.
It's a feature. Age is a feature. Enjoy it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Right.
All right. But yeah.
Right. But we're going to talk about these layers of Japanese business culture that are not immediately obvious to newcomers and even to people like us from time to time, because the Japanese let you work with them and also accept you to work with them in their teams and organizations. But more often than not, you are expected to learn by observing what they do, and it doesn't mean that they explain what you are expected to do. So by default, the Japanese culture is more a culture of observance than of explanation, and that is one of the reasons which make it so deep, and sometimes, of course, it may makes it look mysterious as well. But there is nothing mysterious about this culture. Like many other cultures here and the business culture, it's actually not so difficult to understand when you find somebody to help you with that. And just before we started, we went live today, Tim said that it's important that you find trusted person to help you with that. So if you do not understand something, you ask them, you talk with them, and eventually you begin to understand. You find friends or you find family members who belong to this culture, and gradually you get acquainted with it. But I'm not going to actually talk too much. I just wanted to say that we invited our dear friend Binati today because yes, thank you so very much. We know that it's very early for you. It's 4:30 in India, and we appreciate your waking up early. I know you say it. You say that you wake up every morning like
I
that.
haven't made a content pillar out of how early I wake up yet, but that is an option. Someday, when you have to become full-time content creator, you can make that into a niche, apparently. That I wake up at 5 a.m. and do nothing. Or I drink warm water and then I do this and I do that. Anything other than a job.
Warm
So
water. Yeah.
Yes,
I'm a
yes,
warm water guy too.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I was telling Binati, I never met Binati in person, but Binati's one of my favorite people. I wasn't blessed with a daughter, but if I ever had a daughter, I'd want her to be like you.
they're all that's
You're
like
so
the
you're
best
so
compliment ever.
mature and beyond your years, and your content is really interesting, and you're very
Oh, thank
wise.
you.
You're beyond your years. So I was a dumbass when I was your age. So I'm comparing you. It's a low bar comparing you to
It's
me.
about strategically hiding your weird thingies because I
We
am
all do that.
absolutely not mature. I just hide it better than you.
Well, your online persona is fantastic. That's what I can say for sure. There you go.
Yes, yes.
And
And to everybody watching us, I also wanted to add a bit of information that last month Binati attended our trial sessions, Tim, and my trial sessions on cross-cultural communication and also Japanese customer service. And we also wanted to hear Binati's take for the sessions, and whether she found anything interesting there, what if there was anything, what though that interesting thing was. And of course, we can talk about how these things translate from one culture to another across borders.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I
And
particularly really appreciated how thoughtful your approach was, because when we see and when you see stuff about a country from afar, you will see, like, again, see how people talk about India, right? The country of mysticism and I live in Vadodara. We don't have snake charmers anywhere in this city.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's one of those things, like, oh yeah, you must be fine with snakes. Yes, but I'm also fine with crocodiles. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Because
I
you
didn't
didn't
know.
try to ask me. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things that I see it. Any place that has a lot of stories made around it, and I think
Right.
that is one thing that Japan has, courtesy of the art and culture that kind of went beyond the borders really well. So people have started associating, like, now,
Right.
if you talked like a Bollywood actor in any part of India, people would look at you like, what?
That's
Who talks
hilarious.
like this?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm pretty sure the same sorts of things are applicable to Japanese communication, business or otherwise, because media is always made around entertainment. It is not made around, I suppose, conversations and communication. It is pure entertainment. And if you're going to learn based on entertainment, you will be entertaining. Let's put it like that. not very not very good at the work stuff, but definitely people would enjoy your company. So
Yeah. And I think intentionally and or unintentionally, the media creates stereotypes. It does.
absolutely.
Because it's only giving you slices of reality that might be true. In some cases, they're exaggerated or highlighted more than they deserve. But you can't help but have that image stick in your head, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
what Japan is presenting to the world now is totally different than what they were presenting to the world in the 1960s and 70s when I was growing up, right?
Hmm.
So I was subject to stereotypes that are totally, not totally, but a lot different. And the stereotype I brought with me to Japan was that the Japanese are always serious. I never see them
Hmm.
laugh on TV.
Hmm.
They're all robotic. They all dress the same and go to work and they march, to the same drummer. And
Hmm.
I wasn't consciously thinking this, but those images were in my head. And I
Yeah.
realized that after I actually started meeting real Japanese people here and I saw them laughing and joking and not marching to the same step and not dressing the same way and listening to rock and roll music. And I remember just a dumb 19-year-old kid
Hmm.
being kind of surprised. Oh my God, this is, I can relate to these people. Like, they're human. I mean, I wasn't saying that, but
Exactly. They are
I had
human,
like this
right?
realization that
Right.
they're not that much different than me. And there were differences. I don't want to downplay the differences, but I think one thing I was guilty of, and many Americans were, I don't know now if we are, but back then we would go to a country like Japan, and the first thing we notice is things that are alike. Oh, they dress in Western clothes. Oh, they eat at McDonald's. Oh, they listen to rock. But then we're overlooking the very important but subtle, invisible differences, and you don't
Hmm.
know what you don't know. So you just project
Right.
yourself onto the culture, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
and where we kind of started at the beginning, right before we came on, I made the point that Maya and I, we've been here a long time, and now we take stuff for granted. But at the beginning, we didn't know any of this stuff either,
There was
and
a learning curve, right, to
it
your
was a learning
journey.
curve. But the thing is, you don't know what you don't know, and the less you know, the more you think you know. That's just kind of how life is, right?
Dunning-Kruger
And
effect
and
all
then you
again.
start learning them more. You go, okay, I think I'm getting it figured out, and then you learn something else. Oh, I didn't have it figured out, right?
Yeah.
And that's because nobody tells you. They're being polite. They're politely letting
Yeah.
you continue to make the same mistake And the only way to start getting good feedback is to put the time in to build a trusting relationship where they're comfortable enough to be brutally honest with you when you need that honesty, right?
Yeah.
And I was very lucky because I lived with a Japanese guy for 4 years. He's like my big brother. And we became very, very close. We still are. I've known him for 45 years, right? And we would go out and I would do something. And then later he would say, Tim, in this situation, you shouldn't do that. Here's why.
Maybe not do that. Yeah.
Here's
Oh
why,
my God.
And I wouldn't have known if he hadn't told me, right? And
Yeah.
then, of course, if you have a spouse, Maya's married to a Japanese national, you're close enough to your spouse where your spouse can help you understand things. Even now, after all this time, I still like, honey, what did that mean? Like what were they? What's going on? And sometimes she'll
What
say,
they
I
said
don't
this, but what
know.
did they mean by this? Like, help me
And she'll
out.
say, because everything's so ambiguous, she's like, I don't know, but then she'll give me some options of what it might be. So even the
Right.
Yeah.
Japanese have to kind of guess, sometimes, right? Um,
That is one thing I took as a took away from your sessions. Later on, when I thought about some of the things that were taught and some of the things that were shared, it's like I think this is common across Asia. Asian societies are high context societies, mostly because, and I speculate, people didn't really have stable sort of socio-political systems. So it used to be someone or the other is taking over. You say the things directly, chances are you might get whacked. So people learn to say things without like saying things.
yeah,
And
Right. Yeah.
if you go into a high context society without the context,
Mm.
uh,
yeah,
it's like coming to a formal party with clown makeup on.
Yeah.
It's not that people are clowning on you. It's just that because you didn't sit and learn the context of the high context society. Because technically, that is your responsibility, right? If you are
Yeah.
going into someone's place, into someone's country, into someone's place of work, it's your responsibility to learn what's
Mm.
up.
yeah. Right. You're on
That's
their
true.
turf.
Yes,
Yeah.
we are there on their turf, but also we are always guilty, I think. And it's not because we want to be guilty of this, but we are guilty of projecting our own understanding and values and experiences
True.
on what is happening on their own turf. I'll tell you, it's really funny because what I remember, and because this also creates a lot of misunderstanding, right? So, one of my very first impressions of Japan was of the movie Shogun, and I was still a child when I watched it. And then I couldn't understand most anything why people would do what they did in the movie, right? In the series, it was the TV series. And it was just such a mystery to me. And why would they actually um, kill their opponent, or why they would expect that opponent to kill themselves, right, when the feudal lord won a battle, and then so the other one who lost, they would kill themselves, and then their samurai, and the subordinates would do the same. And I thought that watching them do that was so very cruel, right? And then when I came here to Japan and I talked with my husband, and I would say it's so very cruel. Life is above and beyond everything. So if anybody tries to take their life, you have to help them, save them, and everything, right? This is our way of thinking. And then my husband said, no, in Japan, you're not supposed to do that when there is a battle, and then the battle was won and lost depending on which side you are on, because those people who lost the battle, they lost their honor. They don't want to live with the shame for the rest of their life. And so
Also, I think it
the
is loss of purpose, right? You
right,
lose your utility. When you
hmm
lose your
yes,
utility. And
and
you
And
have
you're
so
lost
it's not only your shame, it's the shame on your entire family,
family,
your clan,
exactly.
yes,
yeah.
and in order to absolve yourself and your family of that shame, you do the honorable thing, right? You take your own life. And so I was never ever, before I came to Japan, never thought of all this dynamic in the way my husband explained it to me, right?
I
And
have that
there's
happen with the books because the way death is written about in Japanese books, it genuinely baffled me, and not in a negative or a positive sort of way, but to have death viewed the way they do, right? Not as something you fear, but as something you look forward to, like a purity ritual of sorts, which
Yeah.
was, again, I was very young when because I used to learn Japanese while playing Call of Duty with a
Mm.
friend. He was Japanese and he used to teach me Japanese, and I used to teach him Hindi because he was into Bollywood and South Indian cinema. So that is my language learning roots. So he would recommend some of these books to me, right? And I would read them. And I was like, I've never seen a perspective around death like this, where it is not
Yeah.
a negative thing they fear. It is they work for death their entire life. I was like, oh, ऐसा भी होता है? Like seriously, stuff like this happens.
Yeah.
That was just the thing. What you said, the mask comes off, and you have conversations which lead to more understanding of, let's say, a different perspective, a different way of life to what
right.
you
And
are
then
accustomed
right, and then you talk to more people. So it's funny because we're talking like the seppuku, right? That the custom of it. And I
to. Yeah.
studied that a lot in college because my thesis was on Japanese attitudes toward death through black humor. That was kind of my thing, right? So I had a lot of conversations with my wife, and my wife is just, again, she has a different point of view. I talk about, seppuku, and she goes, "Baka na shukan datta ne." Like, that's a stupid custom, I don't get it. Or Mishima, I've
Mhm.
asked a
Yeah.
bunch of my
Right.
Japanese friends about Mishima, and all of them say, he was crazy. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's
Like,
what I
they
heard.
didn't romanticize it the way maybe people in other countries thought they did. He did.
Absolutely.
Mishima did. He was a samurai in his own crazy head, but um, so it's just, again, you see
See,
this
that's the thing,
diversity of
because you
thought
brought
amongst the
Mishima up.
Japanese.
I was blabbing about these things, right? And that's when you recommended After the Banquet to me.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And I read it and I was like, oh, I had till that point, before After the Banquet, I was like, oh my God, like what honorable person. And then I read After the Banquet and I was like, okay, yes, but dude, like, okay, chill. So,
Yeah, right, right, right.
Yeah, but that's why it is so important that we understand the context of the
absolutely.
events, right? Because now, from this point of time, looking back at what the samurai did, what Mishima did, so obviously it wasn't the thing that anybody of us would do right now because we live in a different context. We live in in different times. But back then, to them, that was justified, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that what is important to remember, we often judge events and personalities without learning what the context was and why, their motives, why they did what they did. And I believe that it is also very true about business customs here and business practices in Japan. Because once again, going back to what we talked about in the beginning of this podcast, we just come here like planted seeds from somewhere else. We were brought from a different meadow, and we were planted in Japan. And before we learn what the soil is and get adjusted to it and know how to grow in this soil, of course, we once again say, oh no, this is so illogical, or this is so silly, this is so stupid, there are no reasons for this. But there are reasons. And what I want also to add is that what happened 2 or 3 or 5 centuries ago, so the remnants of these customs are still alive in some form, not in
Maybe diluted. They
diluted.
might be
Yeah,
diluted, but they're still
yes,
around. Yeah.
yes. And the
History is
point,
difficult to overcome, right? It's
right, yes,
especially when you
Every
have
culture.
yes.
indigenous people of a region who are in the region, who have been for families. Like if you look at
Mm-hmm.
their family history, they've been there. They've not come from somewhere. They've been there. Like, so yeah, of course, diluted or not, there will be context that will not translate well to you unless you are there.
Right.
Yeah.
uh,
Yes.
unless you are granted the privilege to see it. Because I think getting context along with it being a responsibility, it is also a privilege. People will not just open up to you like, oh yeah, this one has come. Let us. It seems nice. They are saying nice things about her. So let's just bear it all. Nobody does
Right.
that in
Yeah.
any country in the world.
Yeah.
That is something that is afforded as a privilege to you with time, when you sort
Yeah.
of prove that you are a trustworthy, reliable person.
I think that it's very important how you show up to these, well, to your new hosts as well. And my experience has been that if you show that you want to learn,
Mm.
right, they will eventually help you learn. Even though once again, the Japanese culture is more a culture of observation rather than explanation, still
Yes.
there are people out there who will help you, like that friend of Tim, right, who told him from time to time, when you shouldn't be doing this in this situation. And I personally, for me, it was different. I was always on the observing side and the learning side. And so I followed my friends. What they did, I followed what they did and did the same thing. So, but these are different approaches which work here in Japan. And I believe they work in every other part of the world. But
I agree.
yeah,
The
so,
Japanese have a word kenkyo,
right.
humility.
Hmm.
Yes.
And that is one of the most powerful assets you can have, demonstrating humility, which means wanting to learn, willingness to learn, listening, not getting
Mm.
offended when they give you good feedback.
Right.
So, and I want to make one quick point before we go on, because we were talking about the seminar, and my claim to fame has always been I never use jargon. I avoid jargon, and if I use it, I make fun of it. But I always explain it, right? And one man's jargon is another person's important concept, right? And so we use the word high context, low context. The first
Yeah.
time I heard that term, I had no idea what that meant. And
Yeah.
people explained it to me, and intellectually, like, okay, but what does it really mean? And so I like to make things as simple as possible for non academics, because a lot of the people that I've trained in the past, some of them didn't even have a high school diploma, and very few of them were anthropology majors. So you got to
Mm.
speak their language, and avoid the jargon. So here's kind of how I explain high context, low context. So a high context culture, imagine the Japanese have this huge database of shared information. Most of it's not written down.
Mm.
A lot of it's baked into, Confucianism and all these, and Shinto and Buddhism and all these traditions that they sound like religions, but they've been kind of secularized and fused into the culture, right? So
Yeah.
they have access to this, and of course, the education system fortifies that by having a standard curriculum that they all study, right? So they're all reading from the same hymn book, and
Mm.
so they all can tap into this countrywide or culture-wide database, right?
Mm.
Versus America, my culture, it's not only our education system, but we're low context, which basically means each of us have our own unique database information in our head. And there
Mm.
is some overlap, but there's a lot of gaps with other Americans. And one example, so how do you deal with that? You need words more. You need more
Yeah.
words to fill those gaps and explain yourself just to each other, and not to mention all the other subcultures in the US, like any country, right? So if you think of high context, think of that as the Japanese share this big database of information with thousands of years of history, you know,
Yes. This was
behind it.
truly my favorite takeaway from the seminars, because it's fair. It is where I think a lot of people stumble. And it is where, unfortunately, the stereotypes and all of that win over
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
the reality. So,
Right.
thanks
Yeah.
for that.
And I also like to say that in Europe, yes, Tim, in the United States, there are so a lot of gaps between your fellow Americans because of the educational system, because of I would say
Short
also,
history.
yes, history. Also, the territory is huge there, right? And
Yep. Yep.
right, it's another thing which we cannot basically ignore. But in Europe, there are so many ethnic groups now, nationalities, and throughout history we fought with each other for land, right? Because Europe is the smallest continent, we cannot ignore that either. And in order for us to coexist together, when we weren't fighting, we were explaining each other, ourselves to each other. I think
That's
that yes. So, and that's, I believe, where our love of verbal explanations come mostly, not only, of course, but mostly. And yeah, we talk a lot in Europe too, like the Americans.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we were having this discussion, suddenly something struck me, not about the history, but like there's a very popular video that is doing the rounds right now, right? The cheating couple at Coldplay.
Oh yeah, yeah,
They got caught, right? Now, this is where we can see stuff of this sort. Again, cultural context come into play. The West memed it immediately,
yeah,
and all of these big companies are creating content around it, right? So Audi and all of these accounts have made very humorous, but let's call it tasteless sort of parodies of the event to basically market their product.
yeah,
And we didn't see any of this come from Japanese companies. We didn't see any of this come from most Asian countries and companies, because
Mhm.
uh, over here, what people will notice is, oh, that's two families probably fracturing, and not, oh, it's a Silicon Valley CEO caught with the HR, right? People are focused on that bit that we are seeing heartbreak. And we will gossip about this, obviously, but we will not make this like the pivotal point of our marketing PowerPoint presentation at our job, because everyone at my job will then think I'm a tasteless person.
yeah.
So
No,
I think those sorts of things,
yeah,
it's a good marketing idea as a marketeer. You are not wrong, but like as a marketeer in a high context society, even though you are right from a marketing standpoint, you will maybe not be praised for coming up with ideas of the sort, right? So it's like this is the kind of things you have to understand when you are I sort of, when I learned, I hated Keigo, I did with a passion.
With a passion. Yes.
I'm not going to
Right.
pretend to be graceful about the Japanese language learning process. Oh my God, it was so frustrating. But you can see it. You can see why they had to bring it into place.
Hmm.
Because if you don't have such set structures of communication, which might be frustrating, but because they exist, chances of miscommunication are at least documented. If not, communicate if the communication is not clear, at least you'll be able to figure out where it broke down. Very.
Right. Yes.
So these are things, frustrating things that seem frustrating to you, but it's not. It has purpose to it, and you
It
have to
does.
engage with the thing and engage with the process and realize that you are out of your comfort zone when you are in a country and a region that you didn't grow up in, and that takes time. So just like how people are giving grace to you, you also have to give it to yourself, to take the time to understand things before you jump right in to impress people. Because I think, well, that's also where we go wrong. You are trying to say the things that will make you sound smart and intelligent, all of this, and obviously everyone is like, this one is talking too well about her, especially we talk about Asians.
Yeah.
We have distrust for someone who speaks too much about themselves. So
right.
it's like, what is this one hiding
Yeah.
underneath all of this, self flattery? So even though
Yeah.
you are
Two.
coming from,
Yeah. It's interesting, Binati. It's really the 2 points you made. One about Keigo, and the second one about sounding smart. So about Keigo, I when I started learning Japanese, I also hated it because it was so difficult to get used to all these. Well, to read the room first of all, right? Because you cannot use Keigo without reading the room. And sometimes we as foreigners inevitably make mistakes. That's okay. Usually, the good part of it is that the Japanese do not hold it against us because they see that we want to learn, right? Once again.
Also, they are
But
too busy to focus on
there
such
too,
things.
yes. But the point is that if you learn how to use Keigo and how to read the room, you can very easily actually understand the positions of the people who are in that room, even when you meet them for the first time. Just by the Keigo which everybody in that room uses. And another thing is that what you mentioned about us, Westerners or people from other countries, we like to flatter ourselves by trying to sound very smart and everything. And I have noticed that in Japan, this is not a trend, right? The Japanese are very pragmatic,
Yeah.
and I think that the best colleague, or how can I put it, the best specialists I have met in the fields here in Japan, the industries I have worked with, they are always people who are very pragmatic and who use specific, easy to understand sentences. They don't go for difficult terms, even though in written Japanese there are terms, there is jargon which is used in every industry, and if you haven't learned that, you're not going to be able to read the written language there. But when they talk, the expressions are always very easy to understand.
Yeah.
So, right, it's really interesting how.
It's Richard Feynman, actually. He has said this very, very beautifully, and I so agree with him. He said that if you truly understand something, which experts do, experts know their business really well. And we are not just talking about degree expertise, it's also trade expertise, right? Like a
Right.
really well trained welder will be able to weld a running boiler, a
Mm-hmm.
boiler that is still functional, right? They'll be able to do it, no problem, no issues, because they have expertise, and they will not feel the need to project that expertise because they have it. It is not something they are looking forward to. They have it. And so they will not use jargon. So Richard Feynman used to famously say this: if you truly understand something, you will be able to explain it in simple words to a fifth grader.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. I.
And I
Yeah.
have observed the same thing, not just about Japanese people, but in general, that I have, because I don't do it much anymore, and I haven't really announced it on LinkedIn. I'm not ghostwriting anymore, just editing. But I have like a what I like to call BS detector, bull detector. I
We
think
can
we
say
can swear,
bullshit.
right? You get
It's okay.
Right.
demonetized or things like
Yeah.
that. So the detector seriously goes off when someone does not stop talking about their accomplishments and does not stop talking about how smart they are or how insert any sort of and this is not trying to demean someone. It's just that if you're good at everything,
Mm.
are you not a human being? Because
Right. Right.
it does not compute to me. What are you really hiding? And I like to call this ask dumb questions to figure out how people respond to things. Experts respond with humility. They don't talk down to you, they talk to you,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And this I have noticed across the board. My BS detector pings the moment this thing, and I'm like, yeah, we can't work together. Sorry.
Yeah. This is kind of like, Japan has seeped into me over the years, right? And
Yeah.
this is before I was studying the culture even and studying Confucianism. But I eventually came across this quote. Confucius says, "The superior person is modest in speech, but exceeds in action." And this is considered the gentleman, the Confucian gentleman, gentle person, right? And
Yeah.
I've seen this, like all the most talented people I know are humble, and it's not fake. Like the reason they're so good is because they keep that, beginner's mind, and they stay humble so they can keep learning. So you
Yeah.
have to be humble to truly learn. And when
Yes.
I like LinkedIn, more and more has been annoying me because there are there's something to me that's a turnoff when people are shamelessly promoting themselves. And but I want to say that with a caveat. I think there are appropriate ways to promote yourself, and I think there are. I don't want to say it's inappropriate, but when I hear people, like you said, bragging and it's me, and I'm the center of attention, and look at me. I'm kind of like you. I'm kind of like the Japanese. I'm like, wait a
Yeah,
minute. I think they're hiding something. I think they're
exactly.
compensating for a weakness by
Yes,
focusing on me. And I look, I have a presence on LinkedIn, but when I share, I'm trying to share knowledge, insights, expertise, and let people decide whether or not they think I'm an expert. You
that's
know,
why we get along, Tim.
it's not up
That's
to
why
me
we
to
get
say I'm the
along.
expert, you know?
We
Um,
we like to talk about things that we are passionate about, right? Because I follow both of your stuff, and even like I have become a fan of the Langley updates that come in, because you get so much context about the politics without any of the fluff or any of the offended Japanese or offended foreigner reactions, which is
yeah,
which is really appreciated, because that's such a nice way of leading by information rather
Mm.
than leading by
yeah,
biases. And you won't feel the need to, like, you don't feel the need to tell me about your experience, because there is more to you than your experience.
right,
Yeah.
right.
So it's like it probably doesn't even occur to you that, oh yeah, I have to brag about myself so that I position myself better as a consultant or as an educator. You're not even thinking like that, right? Because your focus is to align yourself to passion.
Yeah.
Mm.
I can
So,
tell by your content, Benatti, that you know what you're talking about.
uh-huh,
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Without you telling me you know what you're talking about. You're showing me your expertise without telling me. And again, you're letting me decide. That's who should decide. The person
Exactly.
listening, right? So I
That's a
really that's
sign
what I'm
of
saying. I
respect.
appreciate your approach.
Yeah.
In my
Right.
opinion, I think of this, and this is why I have gotten a lot of feedback, because I have uh, got friends who are very good at the conventional metrics of content creation, and a lot of them have very nice advice to offer. But this is how I define respecting your audience. You have to respect your audience. If you
Yes.
are uh, going to tell them everything, as somebody in like the arts, or as somebody who is trying to foster more curiosity around books and reading and exploring uh, more perspectives to any and every situation, if I'm telling people that this, I have cooked this food and I'm going to spoon it and I'm going to shove it in your mouth, that is me being disrespectful to my audience. I can just say, oh yeah, I have cooked this. If you are interested, go ahead. If not, move along. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. Now, once again, what you say, I believe that we have to always be aware of the fact that we come from different experiences. Every single one of us, we come from different backgrounds. And when I say backgrounds, I mean cultural backgrounds, national backgrounds, experience backgrounds, professional backgrounds, right? And all of us, we see things in different ways. And agreeing that we do that, agreeing and accepting that we see things in a different or in different ways, is already a step forward. And
Yeah.
I am, when, as you say, Binati, when you say something, you offer your view, but you don't say my view is the only right one, right? The right
Yes.
one and the only one.
Yeah.
And that's very important to accept and to recognize, also to show to those people who are watching you, listening to you. And of course, sometimes we witness, content that says, okay, it's just my way or no way. And it
Yeah.
has, well, we cannot beat
That
that.
is
But yeah,
first sign of very controversially non-expertise, because experts are always this in STEM, the movement. It is called the pioneering mindset, right? You have the pioneering mindset because you're focused on moving ahead. Moving ahead does not mean you don't look back, you don't look to the side. It just means you are focused on finding the problem and what could be the possible answers. Like, even if there's no answers, there is that itself is an answer. And when you are dealing with variables of this sort, what you will not do is say this is the only way, because you literally know that there are multiple ways, as many ways as your mind could conjure up.
Yeah.
Because as a pioneer, you know, and that is how you know someone is not exactly what they say there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think Andrew has called this talented jerks.
Yeah,
Yes.
Andrew, how dare you? No, I can say I'm going to brag. I'm going to brag. I don't have any friends who are talented jerks, but all my talented friends are very humble. But yeah, they exist. Of course, I can't. There's
Yeah,
always
but
there's
they
always
have
going to be a
been
jerk, and
delegated
I
to bring meat
wonder
once a year
if those
zone.
talented jerks could be even more talented if they weren't jerks. It just makes me wonder. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, they exist. You meet them every now and then.
absolutely.
So Binati, I wanted to kind of pivot back to the training, and I have a couple questions, but one question is, you already knew Maya and me before you came into the training. So what
Yes.
surprised you about the training, if anything?
What surprised me is the approach, right? Honestly, I was expecting to be given do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that sort of guide. And so this is a bit of a tangent, but there is this really like there is this content creator called Macha Samurai. I don't know what his real name is, and I apologize. I never even bothered to check Macha Samurai's real name. He just goes by Macha Samurai, and he does this. He laughs very loudly, very freely. Wonderful young man, in my opinion. He does this series where he goes, in Japan, people create content, right? In Japan, you are not supposed to bow down more than 30 days. It's like such ridiculous crap that people say in the name of don't do this or do that in Japan. And Macha Samurai just laughs out loud and debunks it. That please,
Yeah.
Japanese people are human beings. You can bow down to people at whatever angle you want. And it's okay if you don't bow down as well. They can tell you are not from Japan. So what I appreciated is we generally see people either bunking or debunking what to do and what not to do, sort of things. I really appreciated that you guys didn't do that, which is create like these arbitrary lists. Because I think what happens when a list like that comes is you put that list in your head and measure every interaction against it. Like, oh yeah, they said this allowed, this not allowed. That one had bit of a curt reaction to me. Did I violate one of the things?
Yeah,
And I will not focus on my interaction. I will focus on this list,
Mm-hmm.
right?
right.
Which is not how you debunk or figure out how to communicate well at work or outside of work. I like that you focused on providing more context about a high context society, which is, I think, personally speaking, a better approach than the do this, don't do
Right.
this approach.
Right.
Because then you are focused on understanding stuff rather than judging it.
Right.
Because when you have lists, you are judging stuff, and the stuff you are judging is yourself, but you're still judging stuff. And I don't think there's much growth uh, that happens from judgment.
Yeah, and you mentioned the importance of respecting your audience. To me, that's how I show respect. I say, look, I'm not going to put you in a box with do's and don'ts, because every do I ever tell you could be a don't in another situation. It's all contextual.
Yeah.
Instead of, things change. What's right in one situation is not right in the other situation, especially in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
my approach has always been, we're going to give you the information, and we're
Yeah.
going to trust that you are a thinking adult who can take that information and decide what to do with it. So
Yeah.
I'm respecting you. by saying that. And if I put you in a box with do's and don'ts, that means I'm telling you don't be authentic. Just robotically follow these rules. To me, it's more important to be authentic. As long as you're respectful and you have a humble heart, you're better off being authentic than trying to follow this rigid paint by the numbers, which is
I
just
think it
bullshit.
shows, right? It shows in your body language if you are doing that, because you probably are extremely on guard. And when you are on guard, like when you are in defense mode, I don't think you would perform optimally. And if you're not performing optimally, ultimately you
Right.
are in a place of business to perform optimally.
Mm.
Right.
That is the one key thing you have to remember: solve someone's problem. And if you become a problem there, then obviously, no matter how well you talk to people, you won't gel, right? Because you are stopping other people's workflow, and nobody appreciates that. So
Yeah.
I really liked that approach, because A, it's a very respectful approach, and B, uh, it's an approach that leaves space for discovery, right?
Yes.
You are discovering things yourself. And I experience truly is the best teacher, and experience is also something that you have to allow yourself to seep into it. You can't just uh, do that if there's an arbitrary set of rules in front of you.
Yeah.
So I
So
really,
what was the most valuable takeaway? What stuck with you?
the most valuable one was the collectivist. Uh, People tend to be more collectivist focused, right? There is something that people are focused on, and
Mhm.
if
Right.
your focus aligns with that, you will have no issues. Be it you making mistakes, be it you making a few cultural faux pas, they look beyond it if you stick to that collective focus. So I really liked that. And you brought in some of these popular philosophies, terms like customer service, all the content that is created around it, and what it actually tends to be. So all of these examples that were given to to make these points, I mean, I found that to be really insightful when it comes to understanding why in some places I was becoming my own worst enemy.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to be like that,
Yeah.
right? It's uh, I think if somebody helps you recognize that there's a problem in the way you do things, that's always a good thing, because once you recognize a problem, you can name it, and once you can name it, you can fix it. So I think that is a more like, it took you guys a long time of assimilating, of networking, of forming relationships to understand some of these things. Now, if I'm on a 6 month assignment, I won't have the time to do that, you know? So, if I have something of the sort that contextualizes the important things for me without giving me a rule book, I think it's really helpful, because it will keep me from stepping on toes, and it will get me to do the job well, which is the ultimate point of business communication. Get the job and go home to enjoy.
Yeah.
You know, in my experience, Binati, I've worked with a lot of folks from India.
Hmm.
They were in the U.S., but they were from India,
Oh.
within a context of Japanese companies, and they did quite well
Yeah,
overall
because we are
with the
technically,
culture.
both of us are high context societies, and
Right.
there's a lot of people and very few jobs. So, because of this, there's a sort of behavior of uh, under promising and over delivering
Right.
that you will see. I like to say it is an across Asia thing again, because people really didn't have socio political stability
Right.
to
Yeah.
not be like that. And
Yeah.
it wasn't just foreign invasions, it was people were invading each other also all the time. So
Mm.
it's something that people have learned, that you have to have purpose, and you have to have utility, not purpose, because I think That is where a lot of depression in these societies come from. We don't have purpose. We just focus on utility, which is what bungles the jungle. No, we are like, oh yeah, I am a writer, so I have to write. I won't ask myself why I have to write. Why am I choosing to? I was just like, I have to write. I have to be the best possible writer I could be. And so I shall write, and I shall write, and I shall write, and I shall write till one day I can't anymore. So this is something that a lot of us have in common, because there are fewer jobs and there are too many of us for every single job that exists. You have to stand out while fitting in. It is a wonderful dichotomy. Like, how do you stand out and fit in? Well, you figure that out. That's not our problem. So
Right.
it creates a fascinating dualities, and you can complain about it, or you can look at it as a way to find some sort of creative solution out of it. So I think that's what I like to do, which is why I would say things have mostly run smoothly. And people are, at the end of the day, people, right? If we focus on being a respectful person, people have more grace for you. So I love that you guys worked at making us want to understand Japanese companies, Japanese work cultures, all of this better. It is not fearing it. It is more like this healthy curiosity around, oh, yeah, really?
Yeah.
This is how it is done? Or because I don't want to spoil some of the examples, but you gave the example of uh, somebody having made a mistake, right? And it wasn't intentional, but everything that happened around it, that was intentional, how they worked at fixing the mistake.
Right.
Right.
So all of these things, it helps you, I suppose, contextualize how you approach a situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
Because I would think just profusely apologize and nope out. No, what I had to do was fix it, right? Not just apologize,
don't
fix it.
blame the person, just
Don't
fix. Yeah.
blame the person.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm trying so hard not to ruin some of the things I've learned, because
Yeah.
then it's like you're giving away the good stuff.
Yeah. Well, the one of the things that really surprised me. So I went into my first Japanese company, and I knew enough to be dangerous. Like I'd studied Confucianism and the hierarchy, and of course, when you learn the language, the keigo. So in my Western brain, I was looking at, okay, it's hierarchical. So
Mm.
everything's going to be top down, and you're going to have it's going to be dictatorial. That was what I thought going into it.
Yeah.
And I have worked with Japanese dictators, but they are they're the exception, not the rule.
Mm.
Most of them were not dictatorial. And then if you go back and dig into Confucianism, there's like this checks and balances built into the hierarchy. Yes, on the one hand, you have the mandate from heaven, you have the guy at the top, right? But on the other end is that person with power comes responsibility, and you
Mm.
are expected to treat your subordinates with respect and kindness because you're interdependent. You can't survive without each other. And if your
Exactly.
subordinates behave poorly, that's a reflection of the leader. And
Yeah.
people have accused me of being a Pollyanna, but I've worked with Japanese factories for a long time, since 1987. And I remember that it was an impression because that's what surprised me. When there was a mistake by the operator, nobody blamed him. And in fact, the boss would say, no, it's my fault. I didn't give you proper conditions to succeed. So let's
High
fix it.
accountability culture, right?
Yeah, and that's why they're so good at Kaizen. And actually, they learned that from Deming. It's the eighth principle: drive fear out of the organization. It's not because they're kind; it's because they're practical. If people are afraid they're going to hide their
I love
mistakes, if
that.
they hide
It's
their
not
mistakes,
kindness, it's them being
it's not
practical.
altruism. It's practical management. And if they're
Yes.
afraid to make mistakes, they're going to hide them, and you can't do the Kaizen. You can't improve them.
Exactly. And if they hide a problem, right? Obviously, the problem isn't going to go away. It's
No.
going to be there in the corner gathering mass.
Yep.
And then
Yeah.
you're like, oh, the landslide came out of nowhere. No, it didn't come out of nowhere. Somebody hid it and then it cascaded.
Right.
So
And they
it's,
don't blame their subordinate. You're not allowed to blame your subordinate. You're
yeah,
not, because you are responsible for that subordinate. You trained him or her, and people have countered and said, "Yeah, but my boss used to yell at me." I go, "Yeah, because he cared about you, but he's not blaming you. He's mad because you
he's
made
trying
him
to
look
teach
bad,
you. Yeah,
but he's not going to fire you. He's not,
absolutely.
right?" So
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. That is what makes them so efficient. Because
in the factory, not outside it.
Not in the white collar office, you know.
They're not efficient there. They're effective.
there's a reason why I'm a
Perfect.
freelancer. You will not hear any form of corporate love from me because seriously, it's so much about polishing people's egos. I'm like, no, don't want to do that.
Yeah,
But
it's
that's
it's really difficult,
Yeah,
isn't
no,
it?
I mean, again, they're rice farmers, so it's more about getting the max yield from limited resources and
yeah,
throwing people at it because you got lots of people, right? That was the concept. It wasn't like efficiency in labor; it was
yeah,
efficiency in yield, right? And it's
yeah,
still reflected in the white collar. But in the factory, they learned from the Henry Fords, but they'll still give up efficiency for effectiveness, even in the factory.
Mm-hmm.
They'll do the 80% efficient, you know, measure if they got everyone behind it versus 100% no one's behind it. You know,
mm,
they're very practical in that sense. But
Right.
they learned efficiency from the West when it comes to manufacturing, and then they do everything. They Japanized it to fit their culture. And you know, sometimes they're inefficient short term, right? The market goes down, they don't lay people off, they lose
yeah,
lots of money. But in the long term, they didn't lose those valuable resources because collectivists, they believe they're very important.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And they're looking at the long term. So in the
yes.
long term, they probably are more efficient. But if you measure it quarter by quarter, they're less efficient, at least based on my observation.
Right. But that efficiency, lack of, or let's say the decreased efficiency eventually, it works in the long term, as you said, Tim. And I remember I saw it. I was talking with a friend of mine who was saying that in the immigration office here, it takes so long to fill in the papers for foreigners and then to submit them. And then you have to go there another time and once again queue and wait in line and so on. But then I thought it's like every system here, and I believe it's true also in manufacturing, is created so that it satisfies 80% of the people, of the population, right? So it works for 80% of everybody who is involved, and it works seamlessly, and it is very good. And then there is that 20% of people who are special cases, right? And then for them when necessary, so basically there is always somebody within the system who goes out of their way to help, while in western countries the system works for maybe 20% of the people seamlessly, and then the rest, the majority, the 80%, they're special cases because there are so many individuals there and individualism is very strong. And so basically in this sense of the Westerners, we are focusing on efficiency because we want to limit the time and we want to use as little time as possible.
Immediate efficiency versus long-term efficiency, right?
Right.
Something.
And
Yes.
labor efficiency is not
Labor
big.
is
It's
not
I,
a
I
thing here.
always like to think of it as I suppose importance of Shinto. Like inanimate objects are important to the Japanese people, right? So
Yeah.
there's respect. They will not just ram road through uh,
yeah.
landmass to create a factory overnight, and they'll try to do it properly. And
They
yes, I,
treat the way they treat inanimate objects like they're animate. They animate them.
yeah,
They all have gods. The robots have names. The So they're inanimate, like you said, but they animate them. They
Yeah.
make them important by
So in India
infusing
also we have
spirit.
this. Say you touch something with your feet, it could be any object, right? It's considered disrespectful. So people will immediately touch the object that you touched with your feet like this and do this as a gesture of sorry. I did not mean to do that. And it's like it's literally like a shoe. You don't need to say sorry to the shoe.
Yeah.
It's just I think it's one of those things. Material possessions, and this is speculation. I don't know. Material possessions took so long to come to you that they are treasures. Like they are part of your life, and there's respect for that. And so while they are not alive, it was so hard to get it. You are like, oh, I will treat you like you were alive, and you are part of us.
I'm glad you said that because this has kind of been my working theory. If you're from a culture like Japan with very limited natural resources, then the ones that you have are
Yeah,
extremely valuable. You need
absolutely.
them. And so you gotta respect them. Versus America, we had the idea of the unlimited good, the
Yeah.
Yeah,
throwaway
it's
culture,
opposite here. It's
forests
like,
that go on forever. Oh, you can waste that tree. We got plenty more to cut down. And in Japan, it's like, no, we don't have that many. We got to take care of the ones we have. And these are, and to assign animus, like a spirit to it, makes total sense because that's the ultimate value. If something is infused with a spirit, right? Anyway, just my wacky theory.
I same with
Well,
me. I also had a theory, but that's what I'm saying. These wacky theories,
mm,
uh, I will not kick chairs, right? If I'm in Japan or India, because it's a chair to me, but it's not a chair to them. It is their
Yeah.
place of work, and they don't expect you to go into it like a Godzilla and go wow wow wow. You
Or
know,
your suitcases, the way they throw your suitcases in the
oh
West
my
versus
God,
Japan.
that's a very popular video, I think. The
Yeah.
somebody stitched together videos from different airports.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone is throwing. Some people are intentionally like doing that. And
Yeah.
then Japan, it was, oh my God,
White gloves, very
it was
yes.
respectful.
it was so good. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
you have a bag treated better than I am.
Yeah.
Public
Yeah.
transports. That's so cute.
Yeah.
But
It
it
is.
makes sense, right? Why they do it. It's because they have given it animus.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you have been taught to respect life, the soul, anything with a soul, anything can have a soul. And because it has a soul, you shall not disrespect it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we already ran over time, but we started late, so I think we're about a little more than an hour, maybe, but we're close, right? So,
Yeah.
wow, this is always fun talking to you, Benatti.
Yeah.
Same.
And thank you so much for attending and for your feedback. We had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, and I definitely learned a lot. Like I'm not giving the specific survey for a reason. So like people should sample the goods themselves.
Right.
Genuinely, I learned a lot in terms of, as I say, identifying what my problem was, and then hopefully fix it.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
good.
Well,
So,
thank you. Yes, thank you for
Yes,
this. And
yes,
thanks everybody for coming, for showing up today.
yes.
We appreciate it.
very much appreciated. Let us know that you were there. Maybe just react to this video in any way you like. And also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and
Yes.
come back again. Thanks a lot for this. Yay! Thank you. Okay, that's all for today. We wish you a happy midweek and a successful reminder of
Stay
the week.
cool and hydrated if
And
you're in
hydrated.
Japan
Yes.
or in any
Yes.
hot place.
Mite kurete arigato.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.